You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
WCYTV.
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. I really don't care, Margaret. I'm your Vice President, J.D. Vance, filling in this evening, the nation's best-looking Vice President in history. Unfortunately, though we got the outfit together, we got the hair, we got the beard, we got everything as ready as we could to portray J.D. Vance here on the show, the man went out and dressed up as the "you didn't say thank you" J.D. Vance memes, in which someone bloats his face and then gives him really long, kind of almost an 80s kind of a perm style, a little bit of mullet in the background, a little bit of business in the front,
Kiss-esque.
Party in the back, yeah, a little Kiss-esque kind of thing. And again, the vice president stepped forward in front of the country today on TikTok because, there's really not a lot of official duties for a vice president. Heck, Kamala Harris played solitaire for 4 years. Here was the vice president celebrating Halloween.
Happy Halloween, kids. And remember, say thank you.
So, I'm afraid we couldn't get a wig. So that kind of ruined it for us, but really hilarious, excellent stuff. So, by the way, to the one mail time question come early, do I get annoyed or frustrated at like the JD Vance like bloating face memes? Does that ever make me feel bad? Some have made some of yours truly. I think they're funny. I've always enjoyed making fun of people through memery. Maybe that's the millennial in me. Maybe that's the brain rot. Who knows? And speaking of really bad segues, let's get into some actual breaking news here. So there is a piece of news that most broadcasters on the news aren't really going to cover. In journalistic media, usually if it bleeds, it leads, is the kind of the cynical phrase that you start out with the worst tragedy, and that hooks people to stay and then hang on through the rest of the show. I don't like that, especially when we are a nation that has been plagued by terrorist attacks and mass shootings, that it is very fair to point out there is too little coverage of the time when law enforcement did their jobs. When they found the terror attack, they found the shooter beforehand, and they prevented the tragedy. That should receive as much, if not more, coverage. Case in point today, the FBI raided multiple homes in Dearborn, Michigan, as well as a storage facility in Inkster. At least 2 suspects are currently in custody. 2 more people were taken in for questioning. Why? Because there was a crew of individuals in Dearborn, Michigan, who had planned to take a couple of AK-47s, the Russian Kalashnikov rifle, could be possibly a 74 in there as well, that essentially were planning on committing a major terror attack on what was called in Islamic group chats in the region, Pumpkin Day shooting was the plan. And apparently details of this particular terror attack were leaked to the federal authorities. And this morning at 4 a.m., this is according to the report by Post Millennial. We cross-checked this with a video. Thank you to Libby Emmons over there. This is the FBI raiding that house today at 4 a.m.
There they go.
So you hear the shots and you see the smoke. If you're watching the live stream, you see the smoke. It is unknown at this point, although we have reached out. We haven't heard back yet. It's unknown whether this is them putting out some smoke capsules or if this is gunfire being exchanged. We don't have all the inside details on this yet, but there are 2 things that are very important. Dearborn is a serious, serious problem. The influx of Islamic immigrants in this country have resulted in disgusting amounts of a very specific kind of violence. A very specific kind of violence. It's not just someone snapping for mental illness. It's not just a crime of passion. It is a very specific and direct kind of targeted hate that comes from Islamic fundamentalism. It has ruined Europe, and it is absolutely making its way over here. And it is a major problem. I'm sorry, the years of tut-tutting where I'm supposed to pretend that the overly aggressive Islamists are just as bad as the overly aggressive Christians or the overly aggressive Jews or the overly aggressive Hindus. No, that's not what the data shows. Good on the FBI, good on Kash Patel's crew, good on the law enforcement in the area for rounding those up before there was a disgusting, horrible tragedy on our hands on Halloween. Moving on to some other big news. There are a series of emergency orders that are coming out of federal courts. I guess they're trying to get these in because they want to go trick-or-treating. So there are a couple of emergency orders. We're going to get to them as quick as we can. First, from the U.S. District Judge Indira Talwani, who has ruled the Trump administration must resume SNAP benefits, which, of course, as we know, were slated to expire November 1st. 42 million Americans on SNAP, the vast majority of those added during the Obama administration. This is the weird part. Talwani ruled the plaintiffs who filed the lawsuit are likely to succeed on their claims that the suspension of benefits is unlawful. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. SNAP benefits aren't being banned or blocked or suspended because the government's decided those people don't deserve SNAP benefits. There's no more money in the system because the government is shut down. The continuing resolution, Congress, who has the power of the purse, Congress decides where money goes and how much go. You can't just say, hey, you need to move that car. It's like, I don't have any gas, officer. Well, too bad. Get out there and move that car. You can't just suspend traffic in the road like this. There's no gas in the vehicle. Well, Judge Talwani thinks that if she waves her magic fairy godmother wand that she bought at Spirit Halloween and smacks the administration, that presto, the funds magically become available. Now, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins pointed this out and made it clear that we don't actually have any magical contingency reserves for SNAP that can be allocated to SNAP. U.S. Section 2027A-2, regarding the contingency reserve, which is currently about $5 to $6 billion, is not available for routine monthly benefits during a lapse in appropriations. The statute limits its use to unforeseen events, hurricanes, recessions, terror attacks, famines, floods, etc. Things that are out of the ordinary. Congress not doing its job doesn't apply. Remember going and complaining to your mom at the wrong time when you were a kid? What did she tell you? Someone better be bleeding or dead. You know what I'm talking about? That's kind of how this bill is written. You don't just get to declare emergency like Michael Scott declares a bankruptcy and say, yeah, oh, well, you need to do it because, and this is the same argument Democrats are making with the filibuster. But this all comes down to the Senate Democrats. The American public knows it. And still, judges are trying to order the Trump administration to break federal law. Moments later, a separate federal judge, this is according to a report from Fox News, in Rhode Island ordered the Trump administration to continue paying for SNAP during the shutdown. U.S. District Judge John McConnell said the administration must tap its emergency funds to pay for the SNAP benefits as soon as possible next month. Now, the language from this article, and this is the language that was used by Judge McConnell, must tap its emergency funds. The judge doesn't specify what emergency funds. And this, by the way, this is a particular axe that I have to grind with the modern movements in politics that I'm going to be honest, thoroughly upsets average Americans who are adults. If you go onto a job site and you do not know what you are talking about, you will end up putting everyone there either in danger or you will ruin the progress on the job site. I would warn parents, because I'm an education guy, come from the education sphere, who said, Tony, I want to run for school board. And I said, okay, do you know anything about school board? And they said, no, but I want to get involved. I said, oh, no, please. We want you to get involved. But don't just run for office just for the heck of it. Don't just go into, big decisions on legal matters or on contract matters or issue statements because you think that's the right thing to do. Because if you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to cause irreparable damage. And that can be said about a lot of individuals this week. Now, moving on, the Trump administration is actually trying to finagle something around. As strange as it is to see Trump be the voice of reason in a legal sense, Trump's the kind of guy to go, we don't really quite understand what we can do here. We're looking into it. But I really would like to see Gaza turn into the Riviera. And that's Trump. He's bombastic. He's an entertainer. He really likes doing things. But to see Donald Trump release a truth post right before the show began, as the voice of legal reason in the SNAP fight that Senate Democrats are holding out on, I mean, the Twilight music from JD Vance, very apropos. Radio crew, we got to send you to the commercial. We're going to dig into this over on the live stream. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal. I'm dead serious, by the way, about those who are looking at this Trump post right here. Our government lawyers do not think we have the legal authority to pay SNAP with certain monies we have available. And now, 2 courts have issued conflicting opinions on what we can and cannot do. That's just the truth. That's the truth. I mean, that's legally correct. Even using the word monies correctly, because they're different pockets of funds. And then he says, I do not want Americans to go hungry. The left has been running around, we talked about this yesterday, running around going, Republicans want people to starve. They want people to starve. Americans know that Republicans want people to starve. Sorry, a little Nancy Pelosi there for you, sucking on the dentures. Trump says, I do not want Americans to go hungry just because the radical Democrats refuse to do the right thing and reopen the government. Therefore, I've instructed our lawyers to ask the court to clarify how legally we can fund SNAP as soon as possible. He then shares Chuck Schumer's office number and says, call this guy and say, drop the act, go for the resolution. Now, my president of the Daily Signal, Rob Bluey, and I spoke for a few moments today. And essentially what we have agreed on is that the elections on Tuesday, as well as how this SNAP benefit problem tomorrow beginning, how that rolls out into the American society, that will determine who kind of caves in this particular fight. But right now, in the middle of it, Schumer is just in complete mutiny. I don't want to get ahead of myself because I said there were 2 emergency judicial orders. I should have said 3. Because now, according to Judge Colleen Kollar-Kotelly in Washington, D.C., in the James Boasberg Corps of Judges, President Trump's request to add a documentary proof of citizenship requirement to the federal voter registration form cannot be enforced. A federal judge ruled on Friday, that being Judge Kollar-Kotelly. Why? Oh, because, it would kind of matter. Why does Kollar-Kotelly say that Trump can't ask states to provide a proof of federal citizenship in order to vote in a federal election? Her argument was, she ruled that the proof of citizenship, this is according to the PBS article, she ruled the proof of citizenship directive is an unconstitutional violation of the separation of powers. And then this is such a PBS line, dealing a blow to the administration and its allies who have argued that such a mandate is necessary to restore public confidence that only Americans are voting in U.S. elections. Quote, because our Constitution assigns responsibility for election regulation to the states and to Congress, this court holds that the president lacks the authority to direct such changes, end quote, Kollar-Kotelly wrote in her opinion. She's just wrong. She's making things up. That, first of all, that's not what separation of powers is for. That's not how it works. Number 2, just because you simply get out there and declare that states have some kind of a right in this instance to get out there and enforce federal election law, but yet what are they enforcing? State law on elections? Regarding federal, that's not how that works. There are federal law regarding federal reporting on elections. So, for example, if I run for some kind of a federal office and I miss one state's particular federal guideline on filing and petition signature measurements, there are federal provisions that states enforce based on federal code that move things forward. Arkansas doesn't just make everything up willy-nilly. That isn't how that works. It's not. These kind of judicial orders are going to be a severe problem for the United States. Now, that brings us over to a severe mutiny against Chuck Schumer. Right now, the Republicans, again, in a very bizarre, like 4 week in a row, not making a mistake on comms. Do you guys realize how rare that is? Again, Republicans used to have a shoe that they had like Andy writing on his toy shoes, Andy. Republicans used to have one shoe that was just for my mouth, so they could shove their foot into their mouth after it had been too long. This is the longest I've ever seen Republicans stick to messaging and not fracture and splinter. It's truly remarkable. Next thing I'm expecting is manna from heaven. So before we get to the rapture trumpets, I want to go over this really quickly here with you. So the line right now from the Republican Party that everyone is repeating that's all around is a quote from Chuck Schumer where he says, quote, "Every day of the shutdown gets better for us." Every day, and then parenthetically of the shutdown, parenthetical, gets better for us. They're running this to say, look, it is actually getting worse day after day after day after day. The shutdown is starting to become a significant mess. Yesterday, 6,762 flights were delayed. That's a problem. That is a problem for the Democrats, according to the polling. Now, again, just as a bit of an honest factor here, when you have the American CEOs, from, for example, major airlines that are coming out and condemning resolutely the Democrats specifically, something's gone terribly wrong. I wasn't expecting that in my Delta bag of peanuts. Here you go.
The biggest way to ensure the safety, security, and reliability of our national air traffic control system is to pass a clean, continuing resolution.
That's a condemnation to the Democrats. That's Southwest.
Concerned that when our brothers and sisters in TSA and air traffic control are not receiving paychecks, that they're distracted and that they erode on the margin of safety that we rely on to go out and operate our aircraft and do our job safely as well.
A series of very serious condemnations. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. We've got a lot to talk about regarding the shutdown snap chaos, because now there is kind of a bit of a crisis. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins has made it perfectly clear that there's not really an effective means to just go and find these funds. The Trump administration has now asked the lawyers in particular lawsuits around the country to ask these judges that are saying, just open up magical funds and let the floods of money roll through. Now they're asking the judges to articulate what funds they're talking about. How is this going to work? And normally you would expect the media to be right in lockstep with the Democrats on this, and we're just not seeing it at all. Representative Brendan Boyle was pretty much boiled alive over on CNN earlier today about this resolution, and it's not even close to remotely pretty.
When you hear Senator Schumer say that this shutdown is getting better politically every day for Democrats, I wonder if you agree, given that some 40 million people are about to lose food assistance.
Well, first, let me be clear. I don't favor or enjoy any government shutdown. Sadly, I've been through a number of them now, as have the American people. There's real pain out there.
Correct. There's real pain out there. So then why wouldn't you move forward and actually fix things? Now, this brings us over to the White House side of things, and so we're actually going to bring you a little bit of coverage from the White House itself. Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. I am your Vice President, JD Vance, going over now to our White House correspondent, Elizabeth Mitchell. Elizabeth, I am told that it is a mess over at the State Department right now. Tell us what you know.
We've been talking for the past 31 days or so about the number of people impacted by the government shutdown. So, of course, that includes people who rely on government food stamps for their nutrition. Those people losing those benefits starting November 1st. We talked about people who are struggling because of their health care benefits lapsing, all these different things that are happening. But one group of people that I don't think has gotten a lot of attention who's really struggling are State Department employees. And
because, normally I'm ready to send State Department employees, into a boat and then to whatever 18-letter country we can find. But this is a different administration. These are different people.
Yeah, so there is a lot of unnecessary politically ideological work the State Department was doing, and all of that, for the most part, has been ended by the Trump administration. Of course, they got rid of USAID, but there are a lot of people who are very essential and do essential work at the State Department, and that would include people who respond to disasters. So there are 40 State Department employees who are dedicated to responding to Hurricane Melissa, which has recently absolutely devastated Jamaica, a very serious hurricane. Those people are working round the clock to respond to the hurricane, and they're doing this unpaid. And some might think, oh, federal workers aren't our biggest problem. They probably make a lot of money. They're going to be fine during the shutdown. But there are thousands of State Department employees who make less than the median income in D.C., which is $76,000. And so there are a lot of people who really do live paycheck to paycheck who work at the State Department and aren't going to be able to pay their bills. So the State Department actually wrote a letter to the creditors of these employees saying, please give them grace during this time. It's by no fault of their own. They're not going to get paid. They're going to get back pay later once the government reopens. And of course, they're really placing the blame here on the Democrats, because at any moment, the Democrats could vote to reopen the government and pass the CR to fund the federal government, but they are continuing to hold out on the American people.
We see this with of course, the Department of State. We see this with Secretary Marco Rubio, who does not mix words. He doesn't mess around, get straight to the point there. We've seen this in Vice President Vance's office. We look at the situation regarding the organizations the government works with, of course, the airline CEOs stepping forward and laying the shutdown at Democrats' feet, saying, open this now. It's not safe. We could lose planes. Traffic controllers are not being paid. It's a very dangerous situation.
Yeah, this is something that Americans should be very worried about. And these airlines, these are not staunch conservatives by any means. These are major corporations like Delta, United, and they're all begging the Democrats to pass the CR and and fund the government again, because air traffic controllers are not getting paid. So they might start not showing up to work. Some of them might not be able to pay the bills. They need to go get jobs as an Uber driver just to pay the bills and feed their families. And so if air traffic controllers aren't showing up to work, it will not be safe to fly. And so flights will be delayed, flights will be canceled, and hopefully we pray nothing worse happens. But this is especially difficult ahead of Thanksgiving, which I believe is the biggest travel day of the year, is the day before Thanksgiving, one of them. And so it could be very catastrophic that we don't have air traffic controllers. Heading into Thanksgiving, Vice President Vance said this to reporters himself, that it could be an absolute disaster for the Thanksgiving influx of travelers without air traffic controllers being paid.
So one of the things I want to pivot to from that is all of the individuals, of course, affected by SNAP benefit reduction. Of course, we're also looking at those who receive some kind of supplemental assistance and subsidization from the rest of government programs, things of that nature. The thing that I have seen most often on social media from press statements so far is a lot of blame and yelling. I have not seen a ton of individuals in the political sphere so far reaching out to say, while this is going on, I'm going to focus on charity. I'm going to focus on giving back. I'm going to focus on pitching in to help those around me who are affected. Is there any atmosphere at all on Capitol Hill, near the White House, anywhere that you have seen or heard individuals essentially making plans over the next couple of weeks to give up some of their time and resources, if they have any, to spare with those around them?
Yeah, I think there's a big appetite for helping out these people in D.C. who, of course, live in a very expensive city and are not getting their paychecks in order to pay their rent and buy food. There are nonprofits and charities that are hosting meals for these employees. I think there's special ways that the government is helping these people try to get loans to pay their rent or pay their mortgages in this time. And so this certainly is going to be a very big deal, because the last paycheck these people got was on October 1st. That was a very long time ago. And most people, even people who don't live paycheck to paycheck, can't go this many pay periods without getting a paycheck. And so I think there really is still, even though so many people are suffering, there is no end in sight. No one is changing what they're demanding, and Democrats are not at all appearing to be willing to vote to pass the CR, and then they can negotiate about the Obamacare subsidies once the government's open. There just really doesn't seem to be an appetite for that. I don't think we've seen any more Democrats flip. And so we're just really waiting on just a few Democrats who see the suffering the American people are experiencing to choose to vote to reopen the government.
Elizabeth Mitchell, the Daily Signal's White House correspondent, thank you for a couple of updates. No, it's been a late couple of nights because of the arrival early in the AM on getting back from the Pan-Asian tour. Thanks for your work.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, we're going to send the radio crew over to commercial. Don't go anywhere on the live stream. It's going to be good stuff. It's the Tony Kinnett cast here on the Daily Signal. Now, over to something out of the entire snap fight that is purely disgusting. And I've seen a lot of people, making fun of this because a lot of it is worth making fun of. There are a lot of individuals who do, in fact, need food assistance. Again, government has completely hollowed out private charity by making people dependent on things that they were never meant to be dependent on. And it has also created an entire industry around this entitlement that if you do not receive handouts from the government, you are free to commit crimes. And it is not just young adults. It's not just grown adults that are recording videos of themselves bragging about this. There is a video that is perhaps one of the most disgusting examples of bad parenting I've seen in a very long time, of adults and their children, their little babies, running out of stores after shoplifting. Here you go.
When you got the whole team helping, no EBT.
Look at that little girl carrying the food as well.
Open the door. Open the door.
So you got the.
It's pretty sick. Again, I'm a little bit annoyed when I'm told later on that children in school that if they break a rule and you send them to detention, that's the school to prison pipeline, not parents directly teaching their children that whenever they want to disregard and violate the law, that's totally fine. It's disgusting. It is truly despicable. And by the way, it is one of the reasons why there is such a blistering mutiny over on the left. There is no center right now on the left to unify around. There's nothing to actually anchor the party and move forward, except random yelling from old liberal white ladies, which we'll get to in a little bit here. And then the preening over multi-ethnic wonderment. Now, the only Democrat who appears to be either high or aggressively stupid is Jasmine Crockett, who is the only Democrat right there, the only one who thinks that everything's wonderful and great, and actually everyone loves the Republicans, right? Republicans are coming up to Jasmine Crockett and saying, we love you and the Democrats, Jasmine. We love you. Here you go.
I do believe that they see us as threats, and they are trying to thwart those threats before they rise too much, right?
Yeah, I mean, why do you think that they've tried to sort of elevate you and others like AOC to become sort of the faces of the Democratic Party? That's kind of how they try to talk about you.
I think that personally they are threatened. When you look at AOC.
I'm just going to say, just as a quick side note here, that Dasha Burns from Politico, this is some pretty sad simping. Honey, ask a real question.
AOC is the highest fundraising member in the U.S. House, period. Above Democrats, Republicans, that is number one. When you look at the crowds that she garners when she goes out, brave. That is a scary thing for him, right? And a lot of the people that I believe that he wants to appeal to, AOC is one of the few people that can actually break through. Well, I would argue that as much as I go against him, I would imagine that I get some of those folk too. I remember.
So Jasmine's making the case that she reaches out to both the Schumer people, who's under fire right now, and we'll talk about why in just a second. And then, of course, she's getting all the AOC love. She's so loved, Jasmine Crockett. Got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast, where Schumer is just having a bad time. John Fetterman, every single day, again, as the man who I would argue christened the term John Betterman, the man has been the most exceptional surprise. I've said that by the end of 2026, it's unlikely he's in the Democratic Party anymore. He still votes to the left on a lot of issues. I'm not getting out there and saying that I would endorse him in a primary, or I'd endorse him in a primary, not in a general election. He's welcome on the show anytime. I think that what he has done recently regarding common sense on foreign policy and common sense on keeping the government open is a snow shovel. I mean, a snow shovel to the face of Harry and Marv, in this case, Chuck Schumer. It's beautiful to watch. So Fetterman essentially now is taking any interviews that he can to get out in front of the public and say, yeah, Democrats, we're a bunch of losers, and I'm really sorry that we suck. It's incredible. He's a leading senator in the Democrat Party.
So what are you hearing back home about SNAP expiring on Saturday?
I'm saying that I will witness it firsthand. My wife, Giselle, she develops the free store in our community, and it distributes food 3 times a week. And her lines have already got longer. And now I will encounter people that have no SNAP benefits starting on Saturday, and I don't have an explanation for them. All I could say is, I'm sorry. It's an absolute failure what occurred here.
Calling your party a failure, that's real rough for Chuckles.
For the last month, and now things are really going to land. And imagine being a parent with a couple kids and how you're going to fill their refrigerator and pack their lunches and get on with their lives when...
He goes on in later part in the interview to say that basically he apologized. The Democrat Party can't get their bleep together. He said this in multiple interviews. That's not the only... John Fetterman.
When I'm back in Western Pennsylvania, I am absolutely going to encounter people that are depending on SNAP.
He's making it a huge campaign priority because he understands that purple states, they care about this crap. The Rust Belt cares about this crap. And so by just pretending it isn't there and saying, oh, things are getting better, it's wonderful, unless I'm going to smack at Trump, it's really a bad look. Case in point, Democrat Representative Seth Muldoon, who is really only been famous at one other point so far, and that was a Instagram conspiracy meme that Seth Muldoon was involved in a Nephilim Jimmy John's conspiracy. Oh, they're great memes. We'll save that for another time. That's the only place anyone's ever heard of this man before. He's from some northeastern state no one cares about, probably Connecticut, knowing my luck. And Muldoon went on Joe Scarborough. When talking about the SNAP benefits in the shutdown situation, he decided to make all of this about Trump and Epstein. It's so bad that MSNBC actually has to cut him off and say, oh, dear God, please don't get us sued for $1 bajillion, you absolute clown show. Here you go.
To freedom with Trump. If you are one of the people like him who took advantage of young girls with Jeffrey Epstein, then we're going to sort of make that go away. I mean, fundamentally, Speaker Johnson...
We don't have evidence that he took advantage of young girls with Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, snap. And by the way, I was wrong. Not Connecticut, Massachusetts. 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. Anyway, Muldoon getting smacked.
Right. Just common sense be damned.
Oh, sexual accusations without any evidence. Oh, common sense. Oh, he's so clever. Look at his little cheap smirk.
I'm not saying common sense be damned. I'm saying facts. Let's look at the facts.
I'm saying you're going to get us sued, you absolute clown in a cheap JCPenney suit. Shut your mouth and listen to me.
Is he in the Epstein files?
He's obviously in the Epstein files. And the reason that fundamentally Speaker Johnson has us on vacation is because he does not want to seat the newly elected Democratic representative.
Right, but you said he took advantage of young girls.
That's why Johnson has the Congress in recess, is because Johnson, see, that's a euphemism. And Trump probably used the Johnson illegally. It's all connected. Oh my God. I'm amazed. The Democrats really do believe that this is the plan. This right here. This is the winning strategy. So Schumer's having a rough time with his coalition. We can't even find Hakeem Jeffries. And then that brings us to, of course, I promised we were going to get there. I'm very, very terribly sorry. The Democrats just cannot get control of their bitter, old, wine-drunk women. Now, in contrast, there is nothing better than a sweet, confident, intelligent, administrative lady in her middle or elder ages. It is. The Bible talks specifically about honoring those. Proverbs 31 ladies in their latter years. They are not, in fact, those that are currently on the left screeching and mewling like Dorothy throwing water on the Wicked Witch of the West. And we can go one of two places with this. We can either talk about, of course, the election next week, and Abigail Spanberger, the gubernatorial former CIA spook, who's, running for office against the first black conservative female governor ever, I believe in the country, if we're going to play the Kamala Harris and Karine Jean-Pierre historic game. But again, she is a very accomplished and, believe it or not, literate candidate. Ketanji Brown Jackson, take notes. That said, Abigail Spanberger is out here showing Americans why the approval rating, or maybe I should say the get out the vote factor, the energy is just nothing. I mean, just emptier than a Flint, Michigan tap water promise. Here you go.
You position yourself as a consensus builder, someone who works across the aisle. Would you work with President Trump on areas like job creation?
Consider the question. Asked, hey, you have positioned yourself, you've run as a purple governor, a moderate blue governor. You're going to be a consensus builder. You're going to work with Republicans. Other blue, when you're talking about Andy Beshear, even, believe it or not, occasionally Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, who looks awkward in every photograph she has to stand in with Trump. Are you actually going to work with the Trump administration? Here's Abigail's, the consensus builder's answer.
I think that, you don't work with the arsonist who burns down the house to rebuild it. And in this particular case, the individual who's responsible for an absolute attack on the federal workforce is not the right person to help rebuild our economy.
So the answer is no, she's not going to work with Republicans. And then she calls Trump an arsonist. You don't work with the arsonist. Ah, yes, the rhetoric language is going just swimmingly over for the Dems in Virginia. Meanwhile, they haven't yet told the left-wing podcaster Jennifer Welch to shut up. The woman who is half bitter menopause and half Botox, out here screaming at the camera, this time over going after Vance, Stephen Miller, and Mike Johnson. And the way that she goes after them, I'm going to be real with you. You know how upset the left got when people called things gay? They're like, you can't say that. Being gay is not an insult. It's really wonderful and magical. And you need to praise them and say, yay, you like dudes. Like, you can't do that. Well, why is it that every time the left has a criticism of a Republican man, it's always that he's secretly gay? As though that's some kind of an insult to them. Producer Nick?
Or short.
Or gay and short. On their spectrum, if you get short enough, are you gay? Or if you get gay enough, TV, do you get a lot shorter? We're going to get emails, hopefully, that explain how that relationship works. But speaking of people in no relationship whatsoever, Jennifer Welch on Vance Johnson and Stephen Miller. Yikes.
I mean, I always say to pumps, I'm like, we cannot lose our democracy to these fucking dorks. I mean...
Dorks. She says to the guy who's leaned up against what looks like a play school wall and sitting in the Mark Zuckerberg white t-shirt from 2007. I mean, he looks like he's a hostage. I'm expecting him to blink in Morse code to tell me that this lady who was an understudy for the second cast of Sex and the City, I'm expecting him to tell us that she's holding him captive. Radio crew, we got to send you to the commercial, and we're going to suffer through the wonders of sad, bitter, liberal women on the live stream site. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast.
Stephen Miller is the worst.
The worst.
Absolute fucking worst human being on the planet. And then
the worst human being on the planet. Okay.
You get to J.D. Vance, who is a failed drag queen. He is. He is a failed drag queen.
You can tell he's not actually laughing. Because when you laugh with your eyes. Your eyes are the key indicator of whether you're actually laughing or not. He's just sitting there like, what are you talking about?
I don't remember that part of Hillbilly Elegy.
I don't either. Hillbilly, yeah. I'm
the 30-minute drag queen show part where he comes back and is like,
RuPaul's
Hillbilly Elegy? Yeah, I don't think so, Chief. No.
Wanted to be a drag queen. He couldn't do it. He wasn't fabulous enough. He goes off to Peter Thiel's gay boot camp.
There's the gay as an insult. Again, the white women who say they protect all of these. How could you do that? You're so angry and yet... that kind of Karening, and then they're the ones who use the slurs.
Silicon Valley, and he comes out like a sociopathic, queer-eyed freak show. He'd be so much cooler if he'd just come out. And
I will never underestimate how extremely weird it is that all of these liberal women are so obsessed with the sex lives of everyone they disagree with. It's so strange. They'll talk about their political opponent's anatomy. They'll talk about their sex life. If they have a happy marriage, then they're either abusive or they're secretly gay. It's so weird. It gets worse when she talks about Mike Johnson, believe it or not, if she could make it worse.
I have this whole theory, Tommy, that
I'll bet you
in
do,
the MAGA
sweetheart.
movement, there's a group of DL demon queens. And I think that a lot of them are mad that they can't come out and feel pride. And so they browbeat everybody all day long. And then they get on Grindr at night and then they go do gay stuff and they wake up. But I think they think, like the Mike Johnson of it all, he's such a nut evangelical. I think he thinks, okay, I can't stop doing gay stuff, but if I make America Christian nationalists, then I'm going to curry favor with God.
The last line here is even, I know that was all like ridiculous, insane, and awful. One thing I've learned in this last week is that no one has any idea in America what an evangelical is anymore. No one. And it's really embarrassing for the people running their mouths without checking themselves. Exhibit A. But no, her next, she tries to claim that this is a real, she's not joking. She's not being hyperbolic.
I grew up in a red state around all these evangelicals, and they think like this.
So I'm an evangelical. I am an independent fundamental Baptist who graduated from Maranatha Baptist University, who, when he has his druthers, reads the King James Version of the Bible. I took a class among my Bachelor's of Science classes in college on understanding the Koine Greek of the New Testament. I am the Bible-thumping Baptist. I've never heard anything like currying favor with God. To save some of you out there who may despise Christians, the embarrassment, you don't curry favor with God if you're living in sin. It's like an automatic no. We'll be back in a second. Got to pick up the radio crew one last time. Tony Kinnett Cast.
If I could fall into the sky.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on The Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. I hate to say that the clips that have been sent to me this week have given me new lows for what I believe humanity is capable of. But I have to share it with you because since we're going to do a little Halloween episode, you got to send in the clowns. And there are, in fact, a few people out there, producer Nick, who dressed up like a clown better than anyone else combined. And so, for the very first time, we're going to enjoy the, calling it annual, Tony Kinnett Cast Clown Awards. I'm very excited. So right up first, we have Zoran Mamdani, who had been roasted because he was trying to impress everyone as the rich little socialist boy that he was, because he ate rice with his hands. And people said, dude, that's nasty. And certain people went so far as to point out that when you eat certain kinds of stew-like foods, we'll say, certain things like soup, perhaps, as was done over on Steven Crowder, it's kind of painful.
I really don't see the issue with eating with your hands. I actually quite like it.
I don't. So Zoran Mamdani has now released a video right before his big election explaining that eating like eating wet, moist, clumpy, hot food with your hands.
You know, when you clump your fingers together, you cup them,
and again, you know, rice is usually
shovel it
like
in your
there's
gullet.
a sauce to the meat that drips through the rice. That's just like eating pizza or hamburger. I mean, you know, come on.
And their number one issue is whether or not I eat biryani with my hands.
Yeah.
It shows you the disconnect.
Gaslighting, obviously, not anyone's number one issue with him. He's a bad gaslighter, and he has the chin line of a saggy old man.
And also the fact that everybody eats with their hands, whether you're eating chicken wings or burgers or pizza or biryani or whatever it is.
So the chicken wings argument is very interesting because you're not scooping chicken wing into your mouth and again, spooning it in. It's not a spoon food. Rice is a spoon food. It's a scooped food.
It's almost like, you know, as cuisine evolved, we determined that certain foods were acceptable to eat with our hands versus utensils, and then we named them finger foods.
What? Amazing. Thank you, Zoran. Just super cool. Excellent clown costume this year. I give it a jihad out of 10. So up next, we have the greatest new, again, I told you the Democrats have a plan. And their plan was to pair Jasmine Crockett. Again, people come up and tell them that they love her all the time. Republicans are like, I'm Republican. I love nothing more than Jasmine Crockett. As a reminder, the same woman who says all Republicans are deeply racist and sexist. They have now paired her with her ultimate match for the super duperest of political excitement campaigns, Jane Fonda.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and I'm here with Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman from Texas, and she knows what redistricting, what gerrymandering means.
10 out of 10. Yeah, I say run that everywhere. I'm Jane Fonda. Matt Damon. And Jasmine Crockett, I'm told she knows what this word means. I'm chewing on my elbows off camera.
She is so powerful in Congress that the GOP want to get rid of her district in Texas. They've redistricted her house out of her district.
First of all, I want to make this clear. The number one complaint, I did the research. The number one by trend data on Facebook, on Instagram, on X, on Truth Social, which I really shouldn't have wasted time running it. I knew that was going to be that way anyway. On Google Trends, the number one concern from estimated right-leaning complaints on Texas redistricting was that Jasmine Crockett would no longer be in Congress to make fun of. Why? So amazing. Jane Fonda, Jasmine Crockett. I'm giving that one a whatever district in Texas she is out of 10. And I'm proud of her for knowing what gerrymandering is. So that brings us to the next stellar contestant in the Tony Kinnett Cast annual clown contest. This one, Angel Reese, ladies and gentlemen, the brick thrower herself, dressing up as someone who matters in women's basketball.
We all did it. Yeah, the CBA is coming up. I can't wait. Girl, y'all benefited from everything. Y'all youngins benefited from NIL. What does that mean? We deserve more.
I will pay $50 to anyone who can translate what I just heard. I taught in an inner city school. I was an administrator and an even more inner city school. I never had trouble understanding like Ebonics, the actual inner city accent, so to speak. Whatever this is just what I assume Nancy Pelosi sounds like sans dentures.
Of course, everybody. I agree. Everybody. I agree with that.
Okay.
But we got to face the consequences.
We got to be
Yeah, we got to get it up. Y'all got to do something. Y'all got to do something. But the women coming in, not this year, but next year. Because the ones coming in this year will still be on the rookie contract again. Mm-hmm.
Yes, the ones coming in this year would in fact be rookies. That's how that works. You're not wrong, boy. Well done. I will say this, and I feel bad, but I had to watch this interview twice to figure out which one was Angel Reese. God, no one knows who she is. It's incredible. I'm having a real hoot. Yeah, the comment section agrees. Said thanks, Tony. I thought my ears were deceiving me. No, you just speak English. That's the problem. Or as we say on the Chicago sky, or a little Joe Biden maybe in that as well. Really exciting.
Soda!
All right, last but not least on the clown costume, there is something on the Tony Kinnett Cast that we cover extensively. And this is everyone coming out and telling you that robots are here and it's over and we're all doomed. So I will remind you, because you all know how humble I am, that when everyone came out and said that DeepSeek by China, it was here, it was going to kill us all. China was doing this like super ultra extreme, major economic math and doing these amazing technological advancements, and it was going to be way better than anything the US could. And I said, no, that's fake because China sucks. And then it turned out, yeah, China sucks. The DeepSeek AI model was largely a fake and a copy and runs slower and also won't let you criticize Winnie the Pooh. So then we move on to some of the other claims. Oh, China had invented a Boston Dynamics-like robot who, if you didn't record for longer than 15 seconds at a time, it wouldn't fall over. And now the latest robotics project that is supposedly going to impress millions. Wow. All people of all time. The Neo. It is a new robot that will, the robot butler dream they're claiming is here. They're so excited about it here. Look at this trailer.
My name is Bernd, and today we're launching Neo.
I have listened to this particular intro a couple of times. I don't know what his name actually is. I don't know if it's Bert. Like, hey, Bert, what do you think about this new robot, Bert? I don't know if it's Burnt. I don't know if it's Birch, like his parents named him after a beautiful bark tree. Or if, I don't know, maybe he was named by IKEA. Here he goes.
Our humanoid for the home.
Neo, the robot, Nini.
Let you live with it.
Yeah.
You just
just not telling me? Well, what does it do?
Like
I'm not sure if that's the actual accent of the robot or they recorded voiceover from a video Zoom call. If my robot butler sounds like a surprised old lady being woken up at 2 a.m. What's she doing outside the window? I'm calling the cops.
That's the premium edition.
That's the premium edition. Yeah. If they make
Just
a robot,
like Grandma's back.
If they make a robot that sounds like an old Southern Meemaw, I'll buy 5. She makes biscuits and gravy, I'll buy 10. Radio crew, we'll see you guys. It's the Tony Kinnett cast. We're going to continue on the live stream. Whoops, I forgot that we were running out of time there because Neo is so exciting, guys. The robot future, it's here. Celebrate. Totally not a clown product, guys, they promise.
my chores, I just leave and I come back and they're all done.
Are you kidding me?
No.
So there it is. That is the robot. That is Neo. Doing all of the important chores that you see. If you're watching the live stream, so far the robot has accomplished closing a door, handing someone flowers. To be fair, that is a chore in my household. I am supposed to hand my wife flowers at promptly 6:30 p.m. every day. So good on Neo for managing it. Handed someone a Longaburger basket. That's fair. Longaburger's a good company. I hear you. Carrying a box. He's got a trash bag. Now, I do want to point out that he's carrying the trash bag out, and he's struggling. It looks like he has to poop. It looks like he's holding something in there as he walks. One of the chores, I guess, is walking down the stairs. All right. There he is getting jiggy with it, like Gavin Newsom did it in his youth. There he is. Excellent. So the reason that I point this out is funny. This is not, no, they have not figured out all of the kinks yet. Now, the reason I give this a clown award, or I nominate this for clownership, there's a reason they showed you him carrying the garbage bag, but not actually, taking the garbage bag out of the trash can, tying the string, pulling it out, doing that really awkward wiggle to get it out of the trash can if it's all too in there. Here is a video that someone, I believe from the New York Post, threw online of the Neo robot trying to just close and start the dishwasher. He's like, I'm trying to close it. Nope. Almost. All right. Yep. Feel up the dishwasher first. Yep. Oh, he's got it. And almost had it there.
You can do it, Joe.
It took him 4 minutes and 56 seconds to just load some dishes in that small dishwasher. Producer Nick.
Put some clothes on that thing. You're going to make it look like a human. At least dress it like one.
That's fair. Now, some of the other things about this robot, the cameras are in its eyes, and like its actual processing units are in its head. So it's very anthropomorphic in that way. A couple of things here. It is either $500 a month forever, or if you are an early access founder, early member, you can buy it for just $20,000 to do chores at 1/4 of the speed with the success rate of Gavin Newsom in California. And when you I love how they say, yeah, we left our house and then the chores were done by the time we got home. Like, what did you take a sabbatical? Cross country, like Forrest Gump? I ran and ran and ran and then got back and the robot's still not getting it done. So that absolutely gets the clown award. So thank you for tuning in to the Clown Awards. I do want to hit a little bit of mail time. Any last minute mail time questions here? Now is the time to get those in here at the end of our beautiful coverage for the week. So I saw, this is from Pig Pug. Did you see all of the planned boycott and blackout for the late November, early December, like across the country? Like boycotting the economy, I suppose, during the time. What do I have to say about this? It's like that sex boycott after Trump won. They're like, you know what we're going to do? All right, ladies. And they're like, either the ladies in, the weird Sex
Norman
in the City
Bates
vibe.
lookalikes.
Yeah, the long blonde, the Karen ladies, you know what I mean? Or it's the dudes in dresses. Your Tim McBrides of Congress, perhaps. Please don't mimic putting lipstick on to me ever again. And ridiculous. To answer your question, that boycott did not work out well at all. It didn't work out. This one, no, you don't just get to quit the economy. That's, by the way, that group of people is the last or the least likely to homestead. All of the left-leaning crunchy people, no. By the way, producer Daniel is informing me now that Jasmine Crockett is in District 30 of Texas. So that means that with a 30 out of 10, Jasmine Crockett is the very first winner of the Tony Kinnett Cast Halloween Clown Contest Good Time.
We all knew who was going to win from the very beginning.
Contest. Yeah, that's true. Jasmine Crockett, she's, those are some big old clown feet, as Will Smith would say. Now, I do have to answer one particular question that I've also been remiss to answer. This is from a super chat member. I've been meaning to get to it. They asked how to go actually about getting their pilot's license. So I do in fact have my little private pilot's license. There was an airstrip near the town that I went to church and lived in while I was doing my student teaching in Newcastle, Indiana. And they just did pilot lessons there. And it took me a couple of months. I got away from it for a while and had to restart them later. But there was a little airfield near Greenfield, Indiana that I got my lessons at for a time. If you consider doing pilot lessons and you have the opportunity to do so, I'd recommend it. It's awesome. It's fun. Flying is the best. So I know that's not like an exciting answer, but look if there's any local airstrips near you. The most expensive thing is the gas. AV gas be expensive. And number two, flying is very, 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 very annoying because dudes with big, fancy, nice little private jets will cut you off illegally. And so best of luck to you out there. Sometimes it's the Wild West. So on that side of things, another excellent question from QWED WAS. Why does Tony act like such a jerk? That's an excellent question. And the reason I act like such a jerk comes from three basic principles. Number one, I'm always very, very, very annoyed. Always. Nonsense constantly pervades everything in the political sphere. What we do this show. We steep in the political bathwater every single day so that you don't have to. So that if you don't actually spend all of your days hooked up to C-SPAN or C-SPAN 2 or C-SPAN 3 next to the Ocho and Corncob TV, whatever, you don't spend all of your day following Jasmine Crockett's riveting Twitter feed with Jane Fonda. We do. We suffer through it. And so that makes me very annoyed. And so I'm naturally a very sarcastic person. I don't know. I grew up watching the Drew Carey hosted Whose Line Is It Anyway? And just that kind of sarcastic, biting humor is just always something that stuck with me. The other reason that I'm a jerk is because this is just me. This is just,
I can confirm.
Yeah, this is just me. I am the exact same person on camera as I am off camera. There are some broadcasters who are totally different. And me being a kind of a jerk. I mean, there's a lot of different podcast hosts out there. If you think I'm a jerk and you don't like it, by all means, I don't, I'm not going to change. I'm going to level with you. So if you don't like it, I'm not saying that I want you to leave. I want you to stick around. But if that's not your brand of tea, let the door hit you on the way out. Next question. This is from a donation over on Rumble from Katana Lake. Cat on a Lake. Oh, I can read every once in a while. Thank you. What an excellent stuff here. Nice tie. Happy Reformation Day. Praise the Lord. Love the show. God bless. Thank you. And a happy Reformation Day to you too. I am in the part of the country that is much less likely to celebrate Reformation Day and is much more likely in our churches to celebrate Trunk or Treat, which is a lot of fun. So yeah, a big hoot to you. Another question that was asked this evening is if I have a favorite Halloween movie. My answer is absolutely Charlie Brown and the Great Pumpkin. There is no number two for me for that. I don't care for any other Halloween movies. I just don't care. I think that Halloween is like the original Disney adults. Like where like grown-ups dress up in costumes, not like for fun. Like, just going out front, that's fine. But like, some people take it way too seriously. And it's like all of the Halloween decorations in their yard they start putting out on August the 1st. Like, they treat it like Christmas. That's not for me. Roselle Jam says, wait, what? Reformation Day? Yeah, October 31st, I believe, is the day that we traditionally hold that Martin Luther nailed the 95 Theses to the door of the church. That's kind of the idea. It's just the day that argues when certain reformations were made to the Catholic Church and split things off into Protestant territory. They got a lot of the cool stuff in the divorce, like really beautiful architecture and a reverence for tradition that I desperately wish that a lot of Protestants had. But by and large, as an evangelical, I'd like to say that I don't really care. I think that the arguments that often dribble through on how important it is that we have the right name for certain holidays, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that people just find something to be really grumpy about. Nah. So, good and fun stuff there. Next question, Tony, how long do you actually think that the shutdown is going to last? And that's from Didini. Nice. The answer to that question is, I think, about another week. I think we get about 2, 3, 4 days into the SNAP benefit cuts in that fight. And then you get the election coverage. Our election coverage, of course, is on Tuesday night. We start at 7. I have no idea when we're ending. That has deeply upset our marketing and graphics crew. He's very, very mad because we're working on like a whole show rebrand right now. I probably shouldn't be telling you this. I don't care. Like really gorgeous graphics and fonts and everything is going to be changed. It's new. Producer Nick's drawing a new sketch up for the set every day. In the middle of that, our graphic people want to put up an ad for the show, for the election coverage, and it starts at 7 Eastern, and then it ends, I don't know when it ends. Literally what I've written on the document, what I've told our editor-in-chief and our president and like all of the other editor-level staff is, whenever I just get kind of tired of it. That's it. Our election coverage initially in 2024 was a very haphazard mess because we had just moved into the studio. The studio lights were actually installed halfway through the show.
I painted the ceiling that morning.
That's right. You did. You painted the ceiling that morning and then left because you weren't with us that night for the election night coverage. I had
responsibilities elsewhere, yes.
Alas. But we eventually got you out of Chirac. But the election night coverage, we went and literally 15 minutes after we went off the air, Pennsylvania was called for Donald Trump. And I was so angry, I almost started a political ad with Jane Fonda. I was mad. So yeah, we're just going to go for whenever. And I don't know when the shutdown necessarily, I'm not going to make any bets because I like to be right and not like kind of right. But I'd guess probably next weekish. Depends on how much pain the Democrat, you're saying what, 4 days? Is that your hot prediction?
4 days post snap loss. That's my guess.
Another question. When is your boss going to cut ties with Tucker? So a couple of things here. On the matter that's being discussed, Dr. Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, released a statement on an interview between Tucker Carlson and neo-Nazi Nick Fuentes. And Dr. Roberts' statement was rather unsatisfactory to a lot of people abroad in the conservative movement. And first of all, while Dr. Roberts, the Daily Signal is its own entity, specifically my boss's boss is Rob Bluey, for clarity's sake, I do have some thoughts and some opinions on that particular statement and the follow-up statement afterward. I have not yet finished his interview with Dana Loesch where she asks him about it. And in the interest of being completely transparent with y'all, I plan to watch all of the available video footage of his interview with Dana Loesch to see if some of the questions that I had were answered before I make any full statement decision on that. Now, I could have probably glossed over that comment and not answered it, but in the interest of transparency over on the show, we try not to avoid things. And so I'm going to wait a hot second and not jump. And instead, I'm going to wait and see everything before I give any of my particular take on that. That's my take for the moment. Last question here. That's a wonderful question. Thank you very much. This is from Charles McSwarles, which is just a great name. I'm just huge fan of it. Do you believe that libertarians are done in the Republican Party? I love this question. I love it so much. The answer to that question is that libertarians have really never been their own serious political entity. They haven't really been deeply serious or relevant in the party for a very long time. And I don't believe that going forward, as they continue to remain absolutist on a lot of social issues that are really, what would you say, producer Nick, 70, 30, 80, 20 issues kind of a thing, that it just doesn't really bode well for them in the future. I'm a huge fan of some libertarian things, like the manufacturing of firearms and the shall not be infringed manner of them. Huge fan of that. But some of the libertarians always seem to get stuck up on just the weirdest things. I've been to some libertarian conventions. Each and every one has been an unmitigated disaster. Horrible. Arguing over the age of consent, ripping off your shirt like it's that Little Caesars commercial. I mean, it's just a rough time. So the real answer, do I think they're going to become more relevant? Are they done? Thomas Massie and Rand Paul are not doing what I would argue to be the best advertising job for libertarians right now in the Republican Party. It appears from my personal perspective here, again, in a matter of transparency, they're just fighting battles that aren't really worth it. Rand Paul should be voting in favor of the CR. It's kind of political posturing to do otherwise. Thomas Massie is spending way too much time making what I have seen so far as kind of much ado about way little on the Epstein file situation. And I think it's a waste of time. I think there's things to do. That's really my opinion on a lot of things these days. There's stuff to do. So might as well do it. That said, hope you guys have an absolutely stellar weekend. We'll be back on Monday for the last bit of coverage before our election night coverage. See you then. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. Take care.